There are lots of opportunities to work as a PA or NP in the United States. But did you know that the opportunity already exists for PAs and NPs to work in New Zealand? Today, I'm going to interview a US trained PA who is now living and working in New Zealand. She's going to tell us how it's different working in medicine in New Zealand versus the US. And towards the end of the video, she's going to tell us how you can also find opportunities to work in New Zealand. Hi, it's Michelle with the Medicine Couch. Thanks for joining me today. On this channel, I try to show PAs and NPs all the opportunities available to them, usually in the US, but sometimes it's around the world. If you like what I do, please hit the subscribe button and leave me a comment down below. Let me know what kind of videos you would like to see.
My name's Tiffany Bukal. I'm a physician associate working in New Zealand currently.
I assume this isn't your first job since graduation. What's been your path up to this point?
When I graduated, I took a really rural clinic that was emergency room, urgent care, and occupational medicine, all kind of bundled up into one. Since then, I did a few years in family medicine, internal medicine, and OBGYN surgery, but always have done some sort of urgent care, either on top of or only.
I think it's smart that you had a goal in mind when you first started and thought about what experience is going to be good to fit those.
Almost everybody needs somebody in the ER. Almost everybody needs somebody in family medicine, especially when countries are just starting out. Those are the two places that they seem to focus on hiring people in at the beginning.
And we're going to talk about all that, like how you found this job in New Zealand, if there's more opportunities for other people. But I first just want to find out about what you think about New Zealand. Had you been there before, or did you move there never having visited?
Yeah, blindly.
Yeah.
Jumped in blindly. So COVID played a role in you deciding to go and just getting that burnout feeling. I've always been somebody who really enjoys my work. You spend a lot of time at work, right? And you want to enjoy what you're doing. It's still work. There's some days where you're going to be like, I'd rather not go today. But for the most part, I feel like you got to enjoy what you're doing. And with the pandemic stuff, it just was starting to feel like I'm hating more days than I'm loving. And the people were really hard to deal with, and the emotional baggage, and just everything that all of us have dealt with. Plus, the kids hadn't been in school. They're doing video school for a year. And I had a couple of people that I worked with, one who just before the pandemic went to travel to New Zealand. And she was like, oh my, I was looking for a job. I wanted to stay forever. And two of the docs that I had worked with in the ER were like, oh, I spent a year there. It was great. And it just everybody had all of these really positive experiences about it. So I looked into New Zealand. They had these great reputations for schools, and they have no crime or very little, especially violent crime, very little. And I was like, I really need to look at this more. So I hooked up with one of the recruiters and we chatted a little bit. And she was like, I have some places. Can I send your resume out? I'm like, sure. I figured not going to happen. And I had an interview. And 20 minutes later, I had an offer. And I
Wow.
went, oh, okay. So then it was 6 months of just figuring out the process. What do I do with my house in the States? And what do I do with my cars? And what do you do about housing? And what else do I need for my visas?
Does your husband work? Can he work online, or does he have to find new work? Or is he letting you work and he's enjoying New Zealand?
So oddly, he'd been working for a company for about 24 years and he got downsized. It was actually good timing because he didn't have to actually transition jobs. Now
Oh,
he
nice.
does investing and stuff in the States. So he's still got an income from the States, but I tease him he's along for the ride. He hasn't got a real New Zealand job, although he's gotten a couple of interviews and offers now. And because he rode along on my visa, when we had a chance, we changed his to a work visa shortly after. So he has the opportunity to if he chooses to. I try to talk him into doing, hey, why don't you be a scuba dive leader or just do something fun? They'll pay you a little bit, but do some weird, crazy job. About 20, 30 minutes from my house, they do shark cage diving.
Nice.
We dive. And so after we went, we were like, so if you ever need any little extra help
Yeah.
or whatever, there's massive amounts of job opportunities for partners and that sort of thing here.
You said there
Um,
is or isn't?
there is. there
Oh,
is.
okay.
Especially when you come along on a partner's visa, because what happens is you get a visa for whatever employer that you're going to be at, and your family gets a visa as well. Their visas, they're hooked to yours, but it can be a work visa or a student visa.
Yeah, that's great to have that. I love you encouraging them to do something that is new and different. You might as well try something new and different in your career if you have the
Exactly.
opportunity.
There was a nurse that led one of the kayak trips that we took. And he was like, oh, yeah, just got burned out over pandemic stuff, just left medicine. And this is what I do. Yeah. So it's been interesting, I think, during the pandemic to seeing all the shifts that people have made.
Yeah, it really was a wake up call for a lot of people. Do I want to spend my life doing what I'm doing?
Really, that's where I was at too. Like I said, I want to make sure that I was still doing something I love and I don't want to be slugging through because your patients see that. And that's not the kind of person or the provider that I wanted to be. So I knew that I needed to either get out of medicine or change what I was doing, at least temporarily.
So, what about your kids? Do they just go to regular, like New Zealand public schools? I mean, the language is the same, so I assume it wasn't too difficult.
The language is an interesting thing. Yes, they speak English here, but more of the population in New Zealand are immigrants than there are natives. This is the most diverse place I've ever been. I have 7 doctors in my clinic, and everyone, literally each one of them is from a different country.
Oh, wow.
So it's really cool, but it also means massive amounts of accents. And New Zealand is in a kind of amazing way it's set up culture-wise. The country is very focused on their native population, the Maori, and there is so much of that language interspersed in everyday language. So the other thing that's challenging with documentation and with the kids is spelling. They use the British spelling for most things. Even the drugs are spelled differently. So the first time I looked for valcyclovir, I was like, I can't find it. I can't find it. So I'm like the Google queen now. So I Google it and then it will come up properly how you do it in New Zealand. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I can do it. And school is set up so different here for them. They have years, not grades. And then they set up their school day not like the US does either. It's not like the teacher gets up in front of the room and does a lecture. It's more run like a one room schoolhouse sort of thing. They have 2 years, or what we would call grades, in the same room and one teacher. As they get into their older grades, they certainly do the changing teachers for topics or subjects. They don't ever bring homework home. They
Wow.
feel like they've had enough. They get their work done during the day. And so it's a very different experience. My kids love it. They also, especially in the lower grades here, they get graded on their attitude and their behaviors. This is why New Zealanders are known for their hospitality and their politeness, and taking care of others is a big part of their cultural foundation here. And it shows in a lot of ways.
So, overall, it sounds like New Zealand has met or exceeded your expectations of what you thought it would be like.
Like the states, it depends on, in part, location. The very first clinic that I was in and the first town that I was in was not a great match for us. It was very rural, and the difference between US rural and New Zealand rural is a big deal. Like, I have to drive an hour and a half to go get my groceries or to go to the hospital, rural. Or they have big cities, which are the size of our small cities. Like 50,000 people is a big city in New Zealand. And so I would tell people that when you're first coming here, you don't want to be in the most rural clinics just because you're already drowning in culture shock and learning so many things. It's nice to be able to have some of those resources. And I think it's really easy when you get a job offer and you're like, I just want to do it. I want to get it going. I want to start. And so you just say yes to whatever. No, don't do that. Really resist that. I've talked to a couple other PAs who've been here too who said the same thing. And that the recruiters can help with that.
Now, are you working in like a family practice or what kind of setting are you working in?
The majority of clinics in New Zealand are what they call general practice. They don't have what they call family practice or internal medicine clinics. And that's where I'm working. Because of my background in ER, the second clinic, they had a lot of flexibility in what they were looking for. And so I was able to say, what do you
Right.
need most? And I kept hearing these same day appointments, the same day clinic stuff. And I'm like, oh, coming from ER and urgent care, that really works well. Plus, I like to do procedures. And then, just like in all settings, all the lab work and all of the x-rays and all of those things that come back, everybody drowns in those, right? And I said, since I'm doing same day appointments, I won't have a lot of that stuff. So 1 day a week for 4 hours, the docs that I work with, I go through their stuff, which was a really nice way to introduce myself to New Zealand medicine. I could see everything that was coming back, which drugs were used. It was and continues to be a great way to learn. I really love the clinic that I'm at right now. It's what we call a bigger clinic in New Zealand. Many clinics here are 1 or 2 docs. And to have seven is a pretty big deal. And because they've not used PAs before, there's very few that have. You get to teach them how to use you. I really want to make a good impression of what PAs do and can do. The patients here, oh my gosh, it's such a culture difference.
I was going to ask if they're much different.
Yeah. I would say in the United States, people can be a bit demanding sometimes. And the patients in New Zealand are so ridiculously thankful for their medical care. And literally, they'll come in and they'll go, I have these two things to talk about, but I know you don't have enough time. So I'm going to book another appointment to do this other one because I know your time is really valuable. And I've really waited a long time to get this one in. And if you have time to hear the second one, that would be great. And I'm like,
I can work with that.
yeah, so foreign, you know? I think the strongest negative words I had from a patient were like, I guess we're just going to have to agree not to agree on that one. Okay. It's also amazing the difference for me from a country that has people that are uninsured, right? New Zealand does both private insurance and public insurance. So everybody has a baseline public insurance. If you have private insurance, there are certain things you're going to get done a lot faster. So it might take someone on public insurance a year to get a knee replacement. If they have private insurance, it might be 2 months or 3 months to get an ultrasound. For some reason, pelvic ultrasounds 6, 7 months out for non-emergent things. If somebody here though has an emergent sort of thing, it's great. Like it's done, it's taking care of their surgery. They're not worrying about feeding their kids or losing their house. They're just worried about the recovery time. Nobody worries about paying for their drugs. All kids' drugs are free. And there are a very minimal charge on the drugs for adults. Every patient visit has a charge, usually around about $50. So every time a patient comes in to be seen, they have to pay a fee. But it's not a fee that's going to break most people. It's enough that people don't come in for a lot of frivolous things. Although the emergency waiting room time here is horrible for semi urgent things, they'll wait for 10 hours. So it's a big deterrent. People don't want to go to the emergency room. And so I will often get minor fractures or lacerations that happened a day or so before. And a lot of the emergency rooms, what they call emergency rooms, are really like what we would think of as urgent cares. So there's no advanced imaging. So they'll have x
Oh,
ray, but they might not have ultrasound. And they definitely wouldn't have CAT scans or MRIs. Those are few and far between. Now, the city where I am currently, they have CAT scan and MRI in their hospital, but many, I'm going to say most cities in New Zealand, they would have to travel to get to another city for an hour or 2 hours away. And so there's a lot of things that happen in medicine here that would never happen in the United States. It's a bit different. Everything is more laid back for sure.
so just to understand, does New Zealand have PAs that are trained in New Zealand?
So, right now, all of the PAs in New Zealand are from the United States. The PA Society recently had a discussion, and after some research, Canadian and UK PAs are also now allowed to come to New Zealand. In New Zealand, PAs are not a registered medical profession yet. We're working on it, we're getting close, a little closer every day. And there's a little added pressure to that because we're all like, don't screw anything up. Oh my gosh, if you miss something, if you make an error, it's a whole lot more weight on you when you have the fate of the whole
Whole
profession like
profession.
hanging on. New Zealand might not get their registration done if you screw up something.
So is it just like a provisional thing right now?
They've been through the process of doing the research on PAs, basically, a study where they had a core group of PAs that were here and they were part of that study. How did the patients react and what was the safety level and how were they utilized and all of those things. And then they did research from other countries that have PAs as well and brought all of that sort of stuff in. And that's been about an 8-year process. We've gotten through that initial study part of it. And so there's what we figure about an 11-step process to get registered in this country. And we're getting down to the last few things that we have to do. So that's really getting to be super exciting for all of us. Right now, we have no hospitalist PAs and no specialist PAs. There's nothing really stopping those people from coming here, but trying to get a doctor on board without saying, this is a registered profession and I'm going to take responsibility for you. And that can be a bit overwhelming for a doc who's never seen or used or done the PA thing. So the PAs that are here are doing a lot of educating in general. And there's only about 25 of us right now in New Zealand, but it's grown massively over the last 2 years. We're super excited to potentially get the UK PAs coming in because, to be honest, we take a pay cut when we come from the United States to here.
Can you give us an idea?
New Zealand PAs make between 65 and $85 an hour in New Zealand. For cost of living New Zealand standard, that's pretty darn good if you're comparing to just general population wise. And it's doable for sure, but you have to be cautious about what city you're living in. If you're going to live in Auckland, you're going to make $55 an hour. It's going to be rough. You live on Southland and you have less housing costs, less gas costs, those sort of things. So it goes a little bit farther too. When New Zealand, you pay rent by the week and
Oh,
it's between $500 and $800 a week.
wow.
Yeah. So you do have to be cautious about where you're living, but there's also a whole lot more free things in New Zealand for like activities and stuff. But when you get your first grocery bill, it's probably double what I paid in the States for groceries here. So the cost of living is definitely higher here, big time.
So you're
You
not
know,
going to move to New Zealand to get rich. It's more
no,
for
we're
the
not. We're
lifestyle.
not. But the adventure is amazing. I cannot tell you the number of amazing things I have done since I've been in New Zealand. And it's got that moderate temperature. Things grow amazingly. Like everybody's got a little garden in their backyard. I think of New Zealand kind of what the United States must have been in like the 50s. People are a little more polite, a little more kind. They depend on each other more.
What has been your experience with the doctors and nurses and just all the people in healthcare? Are they fairly leery or are they just welcoming you with open arms?
I had a variety of reactions. So a few of them were leery and questionable. And then I had one who was jumping in like full bore. You can do anything. You can see all of my patients. I am so excited. You can sign my name to anything. And you can use my name for this and that because we have to use our docs' names for prescribing and we have to use our docs' names for ordering x-rays. And so at first they were like, ooh, I don't really know. And after I spent a couple days with each one of them, they were like, I'm on board. So there's lots of job potential in New Zealand. And we're hoping to continue to get more and more PAs here. Because in the States, we're bad as far as needing medical providers, but New Zealand's even worse. Their physician population is aging out really fast. They have not a lot of homegrown doctors. Pretty much all of their doctors, the majority of them come from outside of the country. And right now, all of their PAs do. There's some medical schools who are interested in starting a PA program,
Oh, okay.
but it would happen after registration. So it's going to be several years down the road where that will be something that's ready for New Zealand. But I know that there are people already
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Do they have NPs there at all?
Yeah.
So are the NPs fairly in demand too?
Everything. Yeah. Right down to even phlebotomists, anything and everything related to medicine is desperately needed.
So just getting back to the licensing, you said there's an agreement with the Ministry of Health. Do you actually apply for any kind of license or do you have to be licensed in the state back home?
So at this time, what you need to have is your national certification. It needs to be current. And there's a lot of, I would say, almost like vetting that happens through the visa process. So you like literally on your visa have to send in your resume and your license. They do a background check, both in the United States. And once you get here, they do a New Zealand check. And your visa is tied specifically to your employer in New Zealand. So until you get your residency, you can't just pop around and do whatever job you want. You're tied to that specific clinic. Probably a good idea when you first come over, at least to think about using one of the recruiters because they help you through all of that. Pretty much, we tell all PAs that come to New Zealand commit to 2 years for a couple of reasons. First of all, for the first 6 months, your head is spinning. At a year, you're starting to feel comfortable, but then the homesickness starts hitting in. If you stay a little bit longer than that, then you're like, all right, now I'm part of it. One of the reasons, hopefully, that you're choosing to do it is I want to be immersed in a different culture in a different
Right.
country. We've done a lot of traveling, but there's a big difference between traveling and living in New Zealand. I would tell everybody in the whole planet they should visit New Zealand. It is probably the most gorgeous country. Every time I look out my window, I'm astonished at the amazing beauty. I can scuba dive in the morning and go ski down a mountain in the afternoon. I've gone parasailing and whitewater rafting and caving and just all the museums and the hikes, the incredible hikes. There are just so many insane amount of things to do here. I feel like it should be mandatory, to be honest, like 6 months a year someplace. It changes your perspective on so many things.
Do they have a slower pace of life, do you feel like?
Oh God, the work-life balance is my favorite thing here. They have a legal mandate that for every 4 hours you work, you have 15-minute tea time. That is mandatory. You must take. You may not continue to chart and work through that. They will come drag you out of your office. So if you're working an 8 hour day, you have two 15-minute paid tea times and a 1 hour lunch. I go take a walk at lunchtime, come back. I'm like, no, ready to go. I can't believe how much more productive and just mentally that de stresses instead of this grinding, see more, do more, make more money. And in general, that's not the drive of in the career paths that people take here. It's not this, I need to gain more. It's I need to pay my bills and then I want to be able to do my other stuff. How can I do more stuff? Just enjoying life in general. It's not about gaining stuff or competing with the Joneses. So it's a nice perspective change. And it's definitely a slow down, just go enjoy life. My boss at the end of the day literally checks in with every single one of us and says, don't stay long. Don't sit here and chart. It's a Friday night. Our patients are cut off earlier on Fridays than they are during the rest of the day. So we can make sure that we get home. You get that family time. Go spend some time with your family. Go have a wine. Go have some tea. Don't work. Well, you're just
What is this?
like, yeah. In the States, I was like, get online access so you can get through those in baskets. And oh, yeah, we don't consider it like extra work unless you're working over 60 hours on a 40-hour work week. No, that doesn't happen with Kiwis.
Are most clinics like Monday through Friday? And what are the hours? And like how many patients is each provider usually seeing a day?
You see a patient between every 15 or 20 minutes. The clinician kind of gets to decide with their clinic how that works. Most people now are about 20 minutes. Again, you have your tea time built in and you have your lunch time built in. Most clinics, 8 to 5 or so. A lot of clinics don't open until 9. Our clinic doesn't start seeing patients until 8:30. And my last patient of the day is usually around 4:30, sometimes a little bit earlier. On Fridays, it's earlier. And then I have an hour built at the end of my schedule for charting and paperwork. And I have a couple scattered spots throughout the day to do that as well. That seems to be pretty standard for most places. They build in those charting times and, like I said, legally mandated to do the tea times and the lunch times. Most of the clinics that I've chatted with, they don't like their medical providers to work 5 days. They only
Yeah.
want them to work 4 because they said it's stressful. And we really want to preserve your mental health and your physical health. And we want you to take that extra time and day. And they're very cognizant of that work life balance stuff. That's mom guilt. One of my kids got hurt at school one day and they couldn't get a hold of my partner. And my business manager said, go, we'll take care of it. Don't worry. Let us know. And I'm like, yay. No repercussions. No, take it off your paycheck. No, like all,
No side eye, or if you have to go, a
yeah.
big sigh.
Or
Yeah.
in general, try to let us know about your vacations and stuff. But we know you got kids and if stuff comes up, they do these. The school trips are really cool that they do here with their kids. They often do a lot of overnighters. So my son's going to a trip in the Borderlands and they're going to spend the night and they're doing hiking and navigating and all of this fun stuff. And I was like, my partner went on the last one. I want to go on this one. And so I chatted with work and they're like, oh, yeah, of course. Like it's something for your kids. You got to go. You got to do it. It's hard to get into doctors' appointments here. So if your kid has one, they're like, okay, yep, you take your whatever minutes you need to for the day, go in, come back to work. It's not a big deal. And they juggle it and they just make it work. It's not this is the second time this has happened. You feel like sometimes in the States, you get punished or shamed if you're sick. You have to come to work. And if you're sick here, they're like, no, Don't come. Go away. Go. Don't you think you maybe need an extra day? Are you sure you're ready to be back?
What about vacation? Like, what do you generally get?
So you'll probably get like 4 weeks of vacation, and they really do encourage you to use it. People here like to take their vacations in big blocks. So it's nothing for somebody to be gone for work from a month, take it all at one time, sorts of stuff. There's a bit of a weird phenomenon around the Christmas holiday because it's their summer holiday here. And so some clinics and some towns close down completely. And depending on the town that you're in and the clinic you're in, there might be a point where it's mandatory 2-week holiday because we close a clinic.
So you're saying that there are opportunities for PAs and NPs. If anyone is US trained, then they can just get in touch with these recruiters and that there are jobs available, right?
Yeah, at this point, the request is that you've worked 3 years total at least, because you can't train someone else to use a PA if you're still learning it. And the recruiters are good, especially when you first come, because it helps just facilitate all of the unknowns that come along with visa process, plus navigating through contracts and what to expect and that type of thing.
Do they help you find housing or anything when you first get there?
Some of the clinics actually have furnished housings because they have so many foreign providers. So it's like reduced rent and that sort of thing. A lot of them will pay for 4 or 6 weeks of housing. The New Zealand PA website also has postings from both of the recruiters, as well as, like I said, a few scattered ones here and there.
Down in the description box, there'll be a link to the New Zealand PA organization webpage, and then I'll have the email addresses for the two recruiters. Thank you so much. This is fascinating, and I am excited for you and your family in this adventure that you're on.
Thank you.
I think that is an amazing opportunity. If you're interested in working overseas, but this may not be the opportunity you're looking for, then you can watch these videos here where I talk about different ways to work overseas as a PA or an NP. Thanks for joining me. Take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.